So let's go on to the second paragraph. Krugman introduces the parallels between now and then. Here we are. From the very beginning of his article. His first paragraph outlines the bleak financial situation, and until the second paragraph, we do not know whether he is referring to the crippled economy of today or the recession of 1938. The strategy of Krugman highlights the intriguing similarities that Presidents Franklin D. Roosevelt and Barack Obama faced, convincing the readers, if he is able to persuade the reader of this right from the start, then he is able to get into a rhythm and add on more and more reasons why Obama should adhere to or steer away from the politics of Roosevelt. Okay, down here. Krugman outlines a bleak financial situation to begin his article, as he explains that the federal government and the rest of the nation have troubled times on their hands. The economy has been crippled, citizens are frustrated, and it appears that even more misery awaits us if changes aren't made. Then, as Krugman begins the second paragraph, a jolting realization strikes the reader. Boom. Okay, so what we've got here, right? Begin his article to then. Okay? Let's actually do it this way. Begin his article to then. Up here, we've got from the very beginning until the second. So Blake's argument follows the progression of Krugman's argument. Does that sound right? First, Krugman does this. Second, Krugman does that. Right? We identified a problem with doing that. Okay. We identified a problem with presenting your argument in that manner last week. What is it?
You aren't able to outline your analysis until the end of the paragraph that you're talking about?
Yeah. If you're just outlining someone else's argument, it's effectively the same thing as having a huge block quote in the middle of your paragraph. It gets in the way of you saying your own thing. And if you start inserting your own thing, then your voice seems like the interruption in your own paper. I mean, you're going along and you say, well, that's not right. And then you say, now back to their argument. And, it sounds like meanwhile at the ranch, and these little cuts going back and forth totally confuse the reader, right? When what you should be doing is setting it up so that the pieces of evidence you present from the writers you're reading fit into your framework. And so if you're adopting their framework in terms of narrating the order that they do things in, then you're not going to be able to lay your own interpretive frame on what they're doing. Okay? That said, these are two different ways of doing it. Until the second, and then, it almost looks like the second one is going to be following more strictly the outline that the outline of Krugman's article, the progression of Krugman's argument. I'm sorry, right? Except that it's not. Instead, what Blake is doing is he's not following Krugman, he's stealing Krugman's fire, okay? As he explains, the economy has been crippled, citizens are frustrated, and it appears even more misery awaits us if changes aren't made. Whose voice is that? Yeah, that's Krugman's. Right, that's sort of unfair. I've read more of Blake's writing than you guys have. But that's Krugman's voice, okay? The economy has been crippled, so all of these different things that are happening to the economy, that's like cribbed right from Krugman, right? And then Blake says, then, as Krugman begins his second paragraph, a jolting realization strikes the reader. Blake is making that jolt happen because he's moved from Krugman's voice to his own voice all of a sudden. Right? He's breaking character just like Krugman breaks time frames. And that's what makes this begin his article as he explains all of this stuff different from saying, from the very beginning, he does this. His first paragraph, I missed that, sorry. His first paragraph outlines a bleak financial situation until the second paragraph, we do not know whether he is referring to the crippled economy of today or the recession of 1938. This sentence right here clearly states, yes, exactly what Krugman, exactly how one experiences Krugman's argument, except for all of the intensity of Krugman's argument. So it recounts what Krugman is doing without having any of the power of what Krugman is doing. This figures out what Krugman was doing in order to make his argument powerful, and then does that. Right? Okay. I mean, compare this, sorry. Compare this chunk right here, do it that way, to that. The second is much more powerful, isn't it? We have a much clearer picture of what's being described. So it's taken all of the pertinent data from Krugman and made it his own down below, as opposed to just saying, so Krugman says it's bad, and then we realize that the badness is the badness that happened before. Instead, we have a very, very distinct picture of what this badness is and how it relates. Okay. The quotes are different. Oh, I was thinking of a different paragraph. So he introduces a quote, right? The president in question is Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The year is 1938. This does exactly the same thing in terms of pinning down, pinning down the interruption that Krugman is throwing at us, and I think that works. But this last sentence. If he is able to persuade the reader of this right from the start, then he is able to get into a rhythm and add on more and more reasons why Obama should adhere to or steer away from the politics of Roosevelt. Okay? Against, with this unique strategy, Krugman can continue making further comparisons, and it seems he has a valid point that the means used to resolve the 1938 recession can be used to resolve the current recession as well. Okay. Which of those is better? Okay, so there's more of Blake's voice down here than there is up here. I guess I would agree with that. But you're saying that to the degree to which he identifies that there's more going on, I'm sorry, to the degree to which he identifies this tactic of Krugman's as setting up this further argument, that it seems kind of weak without the data, I think I'd agree with that too. If only because this summary sentence at the end of the paragraph doesn't refer to much that happened doesn't refer to much that happened above, and that's true of both of these. I think the second one reads better, but I don't think that it's substantively changed what's going on here. Right? You're talking about comparisons between the two, and you're talking about how Krugman sets up a framework in which that comparison could happen, and that's great. But both of them seem confused about exactly how that's going to happen, right? Right from the start, able to get into a rhythm versus unique strategy, Krugman can continue, seems he has a valid point. So gets into a rhythm versus can continue. I think that can continue is probably the stronger way of putting it, but I don't see that you've really identified what this reader is, what this strategy is. Stated very explicitly. Whenever you use the word this, you're probably cheating and not putting in necessary information. That's almost universally true.